Well, it's the question everyone has after they're in an accident with some serious injuries. When should you settle and when should you go to trial? Colorado's best attorney, Phil Harding, is our legal expert and has been teaching us about different areas of the law in our law school for the lay person. We've been doing this for many years now, and I've learned so much from you, Phil.
I'm glad.
Yeah, we're going to just tell people why you are such a great lawyer and why you're on our show. For the past 7 years, you've been elected as one of the top 100 trial lawyers in Colorado. You've been super lawyer. That's on the 5280 magazine.
Yeah, they were 5280 now. The Denver Post has
Nice.
different things on
And
it.
I know that Newsweek has and USA Today they've sought your advice on many cases, and they've written about you. Actually, they've put you down and quoted you.
True.
That's great.
True. Yep.
All right. So what are we talking about today?
You know, I am going through, and as last week, remember, I had to run out real quick because I had to finish up a trial.
Yes. Did you win?
I did, yeah.
Good.
But that's not the point. Let me tell you the point. The point is, when do you settle and when do you go to trial? You know, during my analysis of that last case, I look into things. I look in the good and bad of each case, but then I also scratch my head and say, why hasn't this case settled yet? So I want to go over my analysis, looking at cases, whether they go to trial or whether they're settled, and then give this insight to our viewers to help them understand why some cases go to trial and why they settle. So I want to go over the who, what, when, where, and why cases settle.
Let's do it. So first, what are the statistics on cases settling versus cases going to trial?
Well, and again, I'm only talking about civil cases. I'm not talking about criminal cases, but generally about 90% of cases settle before they go to trial. So you know, that's something to know, and let's start off with talking about when to settle, because I think that this is really big, and we have a graphic for this. First of all, you need to settle, and it is really before the statute of limitations runs. And you see this first thing where it says GIA, that stands for the Governmental Immunity Act.
Okay.
So even though you have to keep within these statute of limitations, if the government has injured you and you're going to sue them, you have to give them notice within 180 days of them injuring you, including if you're on an RTD bus, you have to send out this notice. Then you have these different statute of limitations. For example, if it's a breach of contract, that's 3 years. If it's an auto accident, that's 3 years as well.
So you have 3 years to settle this case?
To settle the case
Okay.
or file suit.
Okay.
The last one is slip and fall. That's a 2-year statute of limitations. Now, these are just general. Obviously, you need to talk to an attorney to find out exactly what your rights are. But then you also do not want to settle case until you know all of your damages. And I got to tell you, you do not know all of your damages until you are done treating.
Really?
Yes.
So you have to wait until you heal in order to know that?
Yeah, and that's a really good point. And let me tell you why you want to do this. First of all, if you are being treated by a doctor, and let's say you feel like, man, I'm feeling better, and I'm sure in 3 months I'm going to be fine, and you settle your case now before you're done with treatment, you might need surgery, you might need something else, and you've totally underevaluated that case. So you want to wait until you know all of your damages. The next thing, let's talk about our next graphic, and that next graphic is highly important, and we are talking about not only the when, but here we go into the next one that talks about here we are on what to settle. All right, you need your theory of the case. And that theory of the case could be as simple as your insured ran into me. So obviously I'm going to prevail on that thing. Next, you need to know all of your damages. For example, your economic losses. And economic losses are not only lost time from work, but mileage and other stuff like that. You need to also know your medical bills, and you send in the medical bills, and we talked about this before. You only send in the billed amount, not the paid amount, so the bigger amount. You send in your medical records, and you redact, that means cover up some of these medical bills and some of the medical records. For example, if you go to your primary care and they're treating you for your spine, but they're also treating you for a thyroid problem, you don't have to show them about the thyroid problem. That has nothing to do with the accident. So you can redact that. The next thing is you need to know your risk. So let's talk about your risk. You know, to fully appreciate your risk, you need to know the law and what the other side knows and who's on the other side. Now, I know that this sounds easy and basic, but way too many people miss the point on this thing. The best way to settle a case is if the other side is well educated, if it's a big company, and everyone thinks that I'm crazy on that, but I'm really not. I got to tell you, I love it when I'm dealing with a sophisticated opposing party or with a big insurance company.
Why?
Because if so, They know that trials are only used as a last resort when someone's not being reasonable. Look, large companies, insurance companies, they go through risk analysis all the time. In doing so, sometimes they know if they're against an attorney that doesn't try cases or, a pro se litigant, they're going to drag it out. You need to have a good attorney. And you need to have an attorney that answers your questions and goes over that. If you're dealing with a paralegal or a case administrator and never talk to your attorney, that attorney has too many cases.
Yeah, so you want to call Phil, actually, because he knows all of these ins and outs. We learn from you every week, but really the best thing to do is call. So if you have a question for Phil Harding, he wants to hear from you. Just go to coloradosbest.tv and send those questions in. He will answer each one of those personally. And if you would like to contact Phil at his office, Harding & Associates, just call 303-762-9500. And you can get a free consultation anytime. You can also find him online at hlaw.org. Get to your next case, Phil.
I will.
All right, let's do it. Coming up on Colorado's Best, a deal on a fairy photo session, a chance for your favorite little girl to transform into a princess in an enchanted forest for a timeless portrait. And later, is it possible to create a heart-healthy burger? Of course. Celebrity chef Nikki Shaw thinks it is. See what she's doing to prepare for a huge